A very good afternoon to each and everyone for taking the time to participate in today's workshop series. My name is Sid and I extend a warm welcome from manageme. Today's agenda is going to be on PowerShell free AD reporting and efficient AD account and permission management. And just before we dive into today's agenda, we're going to have a quick recap on the sessions that we had covered in the last few weeks over here. In the past few weeks, we've had three workshops and they were primarily concentrated on template and CSV based advanced creation. We also learned how to streamline management of AD accounts, Office 365 and Exchange mailboxes in one single window. We had also learned how to delegate a specific role to a technician based on a specific OU, and we're also created how to design a business workflow for critical AD operations. With that said, let me give you a quick look on today's tasks that we will be performing in today's session. So the topics that we would be discussing today would be more concerning over security. To start off with, we would learn how to identify the logon permissions that have been granted to users based on a specific file server or a domain controller, and how exactly are we going to revoke it in case if they are being unnecessary. At the same time, we're also going to find out how exactly you can react when your organization is being hit by a potential threat or even by a brute force attack. And apart from that, we're also going to learn how you can eliminate the need of the PowerShell scripts over here to obtain the information from Active Directory. We're going to use the simple features in AD Manager Plus to extract all the information that you need to report on. And apart from that, our last topics would be primarily focusing on efficient permission management with respect to users, groups, and even folders as well. With that said, let me now take you a quick tour on our product over here. With that said, you should have received the chat in your screen wherein I've got the information populated for the Azure workshop that we have hosted. So we have hosted a live AD Manager Plus setup on Azure, and you just need to access that setup by providing the necessary credentials. The username is going to be ADMP and the password is going to be workshop with W capitalized, and the logon to is going to be the AD Manager Plus authentication. The URL that you will be accessing would be admp.cloudapp.net. So just before we begin into today's session, I'm sure you would have a few doubts like, is it possible to get the videos or the tasks that we had performed in the last few weeks? Absolutely yes, we've even provided the link for that as well. With that said, let us now take a quick tour into the solution itself. So I'm getting into login right now, and our first task is going to be on how exactly are we going to analyze the permissions that have been set to inappropriate user accounts, and how exactly are we going to revoke that. With that said, what I shall do is I'm just going to use simple reporting functionalities in AD Manager Plus to analyze, and at the same time I'm going to show you how exactly you can start managing these accounts right within the reporting category itself. Once again, no PowerShell scripting or any sort of third-party script tools over here to manage these tasks over here. So let's say, for instance, we being in a technological market over here, there have been a few breaches, or I'm going to say a lot of insider attacks, and of course in the past few weeks again, and there have been a lot of legislative measures that have been taken to counter them back. But with that said, we've got a lot of breaches happening every now and then, so this keeps soaring on to various heights. And this is always going to be a huge concern for administrators and security analysts. And how exactly are we going to deal with these topics today? Now, since our core topic over here is going to focus only on security over here, we're going to see a few reports which can actually start making a difference in your AD organization. So let's start talking about with respect to the logon permissions on various domain controllers and file servers. So let us say, for instance, you've got a user account who's got access to a specific file server, and at the same time that file server over there would consist of certain applications. It could be based on payroll, or it could be based on finance and accounts, etc. And let us say, for instance, in case if that account starts manipulating those applications or those necessary scripts in that specific server, what would be the end result? It means the user is going to get a denial of service to various applications, and at the same time it's going to be a lot of threats happening in your Active Directory. And how exactly are we going to manage that? Well, we start off with a few simple reports over here, and we are going to go through with the AD reporting section. So let's say, for instance, you just want to ensure that only domain admins or only the highest privileged groups should have access to a specific domain controller or to a file server, none of the other accounts. Your first step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate that group over here, and all I would do from my end is just get into AD reports, and on the left hand side I've got the option group reports. So the report, what we would be focusing is users not in groups. Now my main task over here is to ensure that the users who are not a part of domain admin or admin should not have access to any of my file servers or critical member servers over here. So the most simplest way what I would do is using the users not in groups report. This is going to give me the list of accounts who are not part of the group administrators. With that said, all I would do is I just have to choose the group over here. It could be administrators, or let us, in case if you've got certain groups, certain custom groups, which have been defined in your Active Directory, domain admins, or any other groups, which pertain to your specific application. Those can be selected over here, right, in this pop-up. And once you click on OK, the next step, all you would need to do is just click on Generate. So this is going to give me the list of accounts, close to 35 accounts who are not part of the administrators group. And my task over here is to ensure that these 35 accounts over here that have been reported should not have access to any of my application servers or the member servers. And what would be my next step over here? Well, it's going to be completely simple. I'm just going to choose all the accounts over here, and with that said, I just have to click on more actions. So when I click on more actions, I've got an option to modify these accounts over here, and the task what I would do is to ensure that they are being restricted logon privilege to the necessary member servers or any application servers. So I would scroll down to the option called user workstations. Now you don't have to get confused just because it says the word workstations. This is just a naming format based on Active Directory. This would also define the workstations as well, the member servers, domain controllers, and any server in your Active Directory over here. So all I would do is just click on user workstations and then click on go. With that said, the option what I'm going to do is to ensure that these 35 accounts should not have a logon privilege to my critical servers over here. So with the option what I would do is to just enable the radio button on the allow selected computers, and I'm going to remove the restriction to the critical servers over here. So if you notice well over here, we've got the logon to where it says these user accounts have got access to all the workstations, as in to all the machines that I have in my Active Directory. So the simplest thing what I would do is just click on remove computers from user, and the option what I would do is just click on plus, and in this pop-up I can define for which file servers or member servers or domain controllers these users should not have access to. So I've got an Exchange server being listed, I've got a domain controller and a workstation, and I would just simply click on OK. And once I've checked all the accounts over here, which is on the left top corner, this would check all the accounts, and the option what I need to do is just simply click on apply, and slowly and steadily it's going to remove all the permissions associated with these accounts over here. So that's how simple it is, to remove the logon permissions of these accounts using AD Manager Plus. So to those who've just missed out what exactly the task that we have done, we are going to remove the logon restrictions for the accounts that should not have access to critical servers. And what we are going to do is just get into AD reports, get into group reports on the left hand pane, and choose report users not in groups. With that said, I just have to choose the required group, get into more actions, and simply choose the option user workstations. With that said, I would just simply click on go and choose the necessary computers that these accounts over here should not have access to. And within a few seconds, these accounts from here on will not be able to log in to these machines that have been specified over here. That's the specialty of AD Manager. If you could notice, just within a few seconds of time, I've been able to do a critical task which would take a lot of time when compared to your native Active Directory or using a PowerShell script. Now, going forward, our second task would be on how exactly you can react when your organization is being hit by a potential threat or even by a brute force attack. A lot of times our AD can be compromised maybe by insider or even by external threats. And how exactly are you going to be proactive using AD Manager is going to be our key focus today. So let us say, for instance, you've got an insider attack or even a brute force attack, maybe by a specific machine, or by hackers, trying to access your network. And this, of course, is going to slow down your network process again, and it is going to, severely affect your end users. Now, when it comes to brute force attack over here, you will find a lot of audit trails, as in the user's password being compromised or the logon attempts, rising every now and then. Now, your best option is to ensure that no users are being affected over here or the security is not being compromised. We can perform a few steps to ensure my Active Directory is completely safe. And what am I going to do? Well, I would just get into the AD reports functionality again, and the option what I can do is just click on all users. Now, most of our organizations, would be specified based on different OUs, so it could be based on different sites over here. So when I click on add OUs, it could be based on a specific OU, or like I said, in most cases it would be based on sites. You might have a site in the US or in the UK or in the Asia Pacific. Let's say, for example, my locations, the US and the UK, are being hit by a specific threat, or even they're being hit by a brute force attack over here. And I need to ensure that these accounts from the US and the UK side should immediately have their password changed. What am I going to do? I would, after choosing the locations over here, I will simply click on generate, and this is going to list out all the accounts that have been present in these sites. The next option, I need to ensure that these accounts should be able to immediately change their password at the very next logon. So what I can do is, just like the previous task, I would just have to click on the accounts over here and click on the option more actions. And the task, I need to ensure that they should be able to change their password at the very next logon. All I'm going to do is just simply input reset password and click on go. Now you might wonder, why exactly am I choosing reset password? Now this is just an option hidden inside this feature. So you can go and uncheck the reset password over here, and the option of what you need to define, well, you have guessed it right seeing the screen. User must change his password at the very next logon. With that said, all I will have to do from my end is simply click on apply. And with that said, when these accounts try to log in the next time, they will be forced to change their password at the very next logon. As simple as that. Once again, just to show you a quick recap on how exactly I had performed this, all I need to do from my end is to generate a list of reports. It could be for all the accounts in my domain or just based on specific OUs. And the option what I need to select, just click into more actions on the left hand side. Click on all the accounts over here, or you can simply choose the option, check all 5 or check all the objects that are being listed over here, and you just need to input reset password to ensure that these accounts are changing their passwords at the very next logon. So with that said, you can easily react, when your organization is being hit by any security threat over here. With that said, let me now take you to the next tasks on how efficiently you can use AD reporting to manage your users. Various scenarios what I have seen in my my customer environments are that they would have a certain application or a certain script which would be dependent on a specific attribute. Let's say for instance you have an application which is dependent on the employee ID to generate a certain report or to generate a certain service to the end user itself. Now what happens in case if that attribute is empty or that attribute was not being populated in AD, maybe because of a minute misconfiguration or something which has been left by the administrator. So when that option is being left unchecked, the result of course, yes, the user is being denied a specific service. So what can I do to find out in case if those attributes are being empty? Well, the answer lies again in the reporting side. All I need to do is a report that's going to give me the straightforward data. So when I get into users with empty attributes, it's going to list the accounts whose specific attribute given over here is empty. For instance, I can choose multiple attributes over here. Let's say employee ID in case if we have a payroll based application, or it could be an employee number, or it could be a mobile number in case if you need to receive a specific notification on offers from your organization or any important or critical notifications. So with that said, what I would choose is just choose employee ID over here and just click on save, and the next option, just click on generate. So this is going to list out all the accounts whose employee ID is empty. And if you can notice, just within a few seconds, I've got all the list of accounts whose employee ID over here is an empty one. Once again, I didn't use any scripting methods over here. All have just happened within a few clicks, and that's all going to be based on AD reporting. So this tool is efficient enough to give you reports on any specific criteria that you could possibly think of doing in Active Directory. Once again, for those who have just missed out, an easy way to find out the users who've got empty attributes is that all you would need from your end is just get into AD reports, and then you will have the option users with empty attributes, and from there all you'll have to do is just go ahead, choose the attribute, click on generate, and there you go. All the accounts whose employee ID have been empty. Now, one of the best ways to ensure that you can immediately manage them is to ensure that you can have this report exported into a CSV.de file. That's going to be this one. So if you have this report exported into a CSV.de format, you can ensure to modify the changes right in the report itself. And once you've made the modifications on the report, it could be based on the employee ID or it could be based on any attribute that you see over here to find it out, or just simply choose add remove columns and you can define the attributes that should be provided in the reporting category. With that said, when you try to go ahead and export this report in CSV.de, you can simply make the changes in the report and re-import it back into AD Manager by choosing the option Modify Users under the AD Management tab. Once again, that's the most simplest way you can start managing your AD accounts even more effectively. So we have now discussed on the users with empty attributes. What about accounts whose at times the attribute could be the same? It could be the employee ID or it could be a specific extension attribute. And how exactly are you going to find out that? Once again, it's going to be a straightforward report. Users with duplicate attributes. So let's say, for example, if I've got two accounts over here who've got the same employee ID, and that employee ID being the crucial part is to ensure to provide that user account a list of services. It could be based on payroll, it could be based on accounts, and so on. So the only option what I need to ensure is to make sure that no attributes over here should be of the same value for multiple accounts. So when I get into select attribute, all I would do from my end is just click on the plus symbol, which is going to bring up a pop-up, and we were talking about employee ID. So there you go. I would just click on employee ID over here, click on OK. So once I click on generate over here, it's going to list out the accounts who have got the same employee ID, and because of this, that could be a conflict in obtaining a specific service. As you could see over here in the report itself, I've got the option where I can view the employee ID of these users, Alex During and Alex Robbins. Once again, it's quite simple. Now, if I just have to simply click on this object over here, it's going to give me a pop-up immediately where I can simply change the employee ID and have it updated. As simple as that. So with that said, this is the most easiest way how you can identify in case if a specific attribute is duplicated for multiple accounts over here. Once again, employee ID is just an example. You can choose multiple attributes over here. It could be your extension attribute, it could be the mobile number, or any other attributes that you wish to find. With that said, our next core topic is going to be on certain reports that is going to give you critical security-based information. So let us say, for instance, you need to find or you need to track, the accounts who have been given inappropriate or excessive permissions, that is being based on users. Say, for example, you've got an account who does not belong who has privilege that of a domain admin, but although when you get into Active Directory itself, you will see that the user's group membership does not has domain admins written anywhere. What do you think could be the possible reason over here? So I just had this scenario right in my AD itself. I've got a specific user account called nested user, and that account has been providing or has been modifying a lot of AD operations over here. I'm just going to quickly take you to one of my domain controllers over here, and I could see the user called nested user. So if I'm going to get into the properties of this account and choose the member of tab, which is going to give me the group membership of this user, I could notice that hey, this account is just part of domain users and helpdesk QS. So I still don't understand why this account should be having any sort of domain admin privilege over here. Now, this is just your AD view. It's going to give you just these groups in which this account is a member of. So, it becomes hard for me to find out in case how exactly am I going to find why is this account being a part of domain admin. I'm sure most of us have guessed it by now, but let me take you to the difference why AD Manager Plus is the most comprehensive reporting tool. Let me go and have this minimized and get into the group reports over here. So we've got two reports as per your perspective. We can generate a report based on the users in the specific group or the groups that a specific user belongs to. So if I choose groups for users over here and my account is going to be the nested user, I just need to ensure that only those two groups are being displayed in AD Manager Plus as well, which means It's going to be the domain users and the help desk US, right? Okay. So with that said, I've chosen the account. I've clicked on OK. So when you generate, I'm sure I should just be finding two groups over there, the help desk US and the domain users. But wait a minute. If you can notice over here, I've got all the major security groups listed. I've got administrators, I've got domain admins, I've also got the enterprise admins as well. And what do you think, could be the cause of this? Well, the answer is quite simple. This is going to be a nested relationship. So if you notice over here, the help desk US group itself is a member of domain admins, enterprise admins, and the administrators. Now this of course is being a test environment, this might look simple to you. But let's talk about a real-time Active Directory in your organization. I'm sure you will be surprised to find out how many groups are being given inappropriate access to these specific groups over here. To make it even more simpler, I've got one crucial report which is going to make an entire difference once you see it over here. Let me now take you back into the AD reporting site and show you the most crucial feature what we have with respect to the groups. And that is going to be the detailed group members report. So I can access that under the group reports over here, and the report is going to be the detailed group members. A lot of time you might have a confusion that, okay, it could just be the users. What about the groups? So you might need to extract information on the groups, the computers, and even the contacts as well, those who are a part of a privileged group over here. At the same time, this report is also going to give you the nested information like we had seen in the previous one. And what exactly I'm going to do over here? All I would do is just choose a group over here, select group, and let's say for instance I'm going to choose administrators. So I would just click on OK over here, and I need to ensure that the users, well, I can have them filtered. For example, disabled users, they're not going to be of much difference over here, so I can simply have them disabled. And at the same time, I can define which columns over here should be displayed in the report itself. So we've got the most comprehensive reports of attributes over here which you can define in this reporting section, starting with last logon time or the account status or the name of the user's group membership, and so on. I can have the same defined for the groups as well. For instance, I need to ensure that I don't need the necessity to see any distribution groups over here. So I can even just have it checked, and this is going to exclude all the distribution groups who are a part of the administrators group. And the only option what I need to do, just click on generate, and here you go. Within a few seconds again, it's going to list out all the users, groups, computers, contacts, categorically who are a member of the administrators group over here. So which means I've got about 17 accounts, who are part of the admin group. Now that is not a good sign even for a test domain, which means anybody is trying to access my domain controllers and making changes, so that becomes hard to track. Now once again, this is just going to be a testing domain, so I don't have to worry much. But let's talk the scenario in your organization over here. I'm sure by now a lot of you would be using your own AD Manager Plus software, and if you could notice the list of users you would find in the domain in the detailed group members, well, I hope the result is not devastating. So with that said, this is the most easiest way you can find the members present in a specific group, nested or non-nested. So I can see that the user accounts are being displayed over here, and at the same time I can also define the groups that are being defined over here, the computers and the contacts. The most interesting feature what you could notice over here itself is that the detailed group members has also got a separate option to schedule these reports. So be it any report in your AD manager, it could be the recently deleted users or the recently modified users or even the detailed group members report as well. You can simply have these reports scheduled on a daily basis if you don't have the time to get into the software to generate this real time. All you will have to do from your end is just click on schedule reports towards your top right corner, and this thereby gives you an option to create your own specific schedule for the necessary reporting. This one over here is being defined for detailed group members, and yes, the detailed group members itself is so powerful that it has got its own scheduler. Let's say for instance, you want to ensure that you get a list of all the inactive accounts who've not logged in for the last 7 days. How would you go by doing that? Well, just simply click on inactive users, and the option what you need to select is just click on schedule reports over here, top right corner again, and the option what you need to perform is simply create a new schedule, and all you will have to do from your end is just choose the specific report. It could be the user accounts that have been deleted recently or that have been created and so on. So I'm going to choose inactive users, and the best part over here, I can define the period, as in for how many days these accounts have not logged in. I can make it 7, I can make it 14, and so on. And the best part, I can also define which attributes should be displayed when that report is being scheduled to my email address or to my manager's email address. That's a handy one over here. So once I've got this defined, all I will have to do from my end is just to input the multiple email address, which I can have them separated by commas. So with that said, we've learned how to schedule a quick report as per your requirements over here. So we focused on the major reports when it comes to having a difference made to your Active Directory. And let's talk about identifying the accounts who might have let's say a lot of access, a lot of undefined access to your shares or to your folders over here. And how exactly are we going to perform that? Well, we've got the option for you right in the reporting category itself, and that is going to be the Ntfs reporting under the AD reports over here. So a lot of times, you might have a thread, or you might have, a lot of audit trails stating that, the folders have been deleted, or specific, files have been modified, and so on. But in reality, those folders over here should only be accessed by a certain level of groups over here. For instance, the finance share, should not be accessed by the marketing team or even by the HR team. That should only be specific only to the finance related groups over here. Similar to that, let's talk about, shares which would contain confidential data. It could be based on the company's performance or the company key highlights and so on. Now that should only be accessed by the HRs and not by the other group members over here. And how exactly are we going to analyze that? Well, the Ntfs reporting gives you 4 variety of features. You can generate reports on the shares in your servers. You can generate the permission for specific folders over here, the folders accessible by accounts, and the non-inheritable folders, the ones which are protected from that. So my task over here is to ensure that I should be able to first view the permissions the accounts or the groups have over a specific path. So let's say if it's going to be the permission for folders over here. So when I click on the permission for folders, all I will have to do from my end is just input a location. So let me just click on select over here, and I'm going to find all the accounts, all the computer accounts over here. So I see ADSF-DC, that's going to be one of my file servers, and let's take that as an example. So once I click on that specific machine, it's going to list out all the shares that are located in this specific server, that is the ADSA-DC. So I'm going to choose the share called as remote over here, and I can have the drill down But let me just, it looks like there are no content over here for this folder, or I can just choose any share over here. But my main option is to ensure that the users, I should find out which users or which groups have the access to these folders. So let's take a folder and then click on OK, and all I would need to do is just click on generate over here. And once again, within a few seconds, it's going to show you the users and the groups who've got access to this specific location. Now, since this being a remote domain, I might not be able to provide you the specific users and groups, since this is not being resolved. Of course, being a test domain, but if you get into your organization over here, you will be able to find out the users and the groups over here. Now, once again, this does means that even the unnecessary users and groups have got access to these servers over here. Now, I need to ensure that only my specific domain admin or even a specific service group should only have access to this specific share. What do you think I need to do over here? Well, one option is that I can just get into to the server itself, and I can start defining the permissions over there. But that again is going to be time consuming. Or I can do it based on a specific PowerShell script. But once again, that could be time consuming as well. So the option what I need to ensure is to make an efficient cleanup is by doing the file server management module. And over here I can modify or remove the NTFS and share permissions. So my task is going to be on removing the share permissions of all the accounts except for a specific group. And how am I going to accomplish this? Once again, what we had performed in the previous task is just getting into AD reports over here, getting into Ntfs reports, and the option what I had done was just clicking on the permission for folders, which is going to list out all the users and groups who've got access to this specific server. So what I would do is I would now get into AD management, sorry for that, just get into AD management over here, and then click on the file server management. So the option what I would be performing, just click on modify share permissions, and my intention over here is to ensure that only a specific group should have access to that specific share, that is the remote share over here. So I'm going to choose the server, click on the share, and I will click on OK, and I'm going to ensure only the administrator or the administrators group should have access to this specific share, not everyone else. So what I can do is I can ensure to keep a flag on remove all existing permissions and apply only the above permissions, which means even if let's say you've got other service groups who've got access to this specific share, which in turn they should not be having at all, I can ensure to remove all their permissions and ensure that only this group over here that is being defined should have the full control. With that said, all I would do is click on modify over here, and based on the permissions I have configured in AD Manager, it's going to successfully modify. Let's say for instance you don't have permissions on the share itself, it would give you an error stating it has been unsuccessful. So that's how efficiently you can start managing these permissions over here. Once again, to show you a quick task what I had performed over here, after analyzing the necessary permissions, you see under the Ntfs reporting category based on any of these reports, for instance the permission for folders, all you need to do from your end is just get into AD management, get into the file server management over here, and click on modify share permissions. So when you click on modify share permissions, the only option what you need to do is just to provide the account, go ahead and choose the permission, whether it be it full control, change or read, and provide a type as allow or deny, and from here you can remove all the existing permissions and just apply the permissions that you have defined over here. With that said, we have neatly analyzed and managed how to perform this efficient cleanup for your share folders as well. So just to give you a quick wrap up on what we had focused today on AD Manager, we're more into security based features over here. To give you a few tasks, what we had performed is to straight away get into the AD reporting side, where we had learned how exactly you can force the accounts to have their passwords changed at next logon. I can do that using the all users report over here. And the actions, what I would choose is reset password, followed by the check user must change their password at the next logon. You can definitely have this feature applied in case if your site or if your organization itself is being hit by a potential threat or by any brute force attack. At the same time, I had also defined how you can restrict the logon restrictions to a specific member server or an application server. And how would you go about doing that? Once again, all you would need to ensure is just get into a group reports over here. And if your task is to ensure that only the domain admins should have access to one of my privileged servers, or users who are not part of domain admins or the administrators should not have access to the application server over here. I would just simply get into group reports over here and choose a report users not in groups. And based on the input you provide over here, it's going to list out the accounts who are not a member of these groups specified. And once again, you will just have to click on more actions and choose the option user workstations to revoke their logon access to your critical servers. We also learned how exactly you can start managing your AD attributes with respect to the users with empty attributes and the duplicate attributes if you need to make a sufficient balance between your accounts over here. A few more reports, what I would suggest definitely that you need to try out is the password reports over here. Now, here's an interesting feature that you might have never thought of. Having said that, you've got the report called soon to expire user passwords. Now, of course, being an admin, you would always have a pain that, hey, the user's account is getting expired, but let's say the user hasn't changed his password, yet. So how exactly are you going to manage these users? Of course, let's say if it's going to be a weekend, you are going to be flooded by a lot of calls. Hey, my password has been expired and can you go and reset it? Now, this is definitely affecting the user's productivity. At the same time, it's also giving you a lot of tickets just with respect to passwords over here. And how exactly are you going to overcome that is by using this simple report, soon to expire user passwords. So I can choose a specific day, let's say next 7 days over here, and click on generate. It's going to give me a few accounts whose password will expire in the next 7 days. And let's say if I make it 30 or 14 and so on, I'm going to get the users accordingly. And yes, the only option what I need to do, have the options, have the accounts selected over here, and I just have to click on the second icon over here, change password at the very next logon. So enabling this will ensure that all these four objects over here will have to change their passwords at the next logon. So this saves time for the administrator, and this would definitely save time for the user as well. The other reports, what we had focused were in terms of group reports, such as the groups for users and the detailed group members report, where we had learned how necessary it is, to start analyzing the group membership of the accounts in case if they have been given privilege more than they should be assigned to. And of course, a last category was definitely a coordination between the Ntfs reporting and the file server management. So with the help of Ntfs reports, we were able to generate the shares and the associated permissions, and based on analyzing those permissions given on that specific share, we had learned how using AD management, that is using the file server management, you will be able to remove or modify the share permissions or even the NTFS permissions. With that said, we've covered all the topics that we have today with respect to our fourth workshop series from Manage Engine. And we will be bringing another topic soon on next week again, same time. And we would definitely love to hear a feedback from you on what topics you would like to have discussed in the upcoming workshop series. It could be a feature that we haven't explored, or it could be a feature which you think is quite important for your colleagues and for your patrons over here as well. We would definitely support that. Once again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being an amazing audience today. In case if you've got any queries, do drop us a question over here in the question pane, or you can drop us an email anytime. Have a wonderful good afternoon then. Thank you.